Hey, Cole here. Hey, you know what? I am taking just a couple of days off this week, and I hope if you're watching this and your employer offers you vacation time off, that you take advantage of it. It is not a selfish thing. It's far from it. You will come back feeling refreshed. You'll be a better teammate, better team leader. But because the week is shorter for me, we decided to rerun our top episode of the show of all time. It's titled, Aren't All Roofers Drunks? Now, we split it up into 2 weeks. So this week, you're going to get a chance to hear the conversation I had with Aaron Rodgers, where we address the topic or the debate of college or entering the trades. Aaron has some really good advice. So if you are a parent of a current high school student, or if you are a current high school student, be sure to stick around for this. And then next week, we're going to dive in and try to dispel some of the current common misconceptions that we hear all the time about the roofing industry and about the service industry as a whole. Let's go.
Coming up on today's episode.
Again, it used to be always one of those things where it was kind of like people had the expectation that you couldn't make a living from working in the trades, and it's just not the case.
This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast.
Hey, welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole. I am part of the marketing team at Pro Exteriors, and joined today, as always, I have with me owner, president, founder, the guy at Pro Exteriors, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron, how are you this afternoon?
I am hungry and blessed.
Oh man, did you not get to eat lunch yet?
I had some lunch. I could have a little bit more though.
Yeah, so far, Southern Grove Peanuts, not a sponsor, has been my lunch today. Well, if you are just joining us for the very first time, what you can expect is right in the title. You ask, the pros answer. Essentially, we tackle a question or a series of questions that we've either been asked or ones that we have heard in the past surrounding exterior remodeling, and we try to have an honest conversation in hopes that you leave the conversation feeling empowered to make better choices when it comes to your next home project. Today is no different, Aaron. We're going to tackle a myriad of questions.
Okay.
And we've titled this episode, you know this, but we've titled it, Aren't All Roofers Drunks, Dropouts, or Dopes? I chose dopes just because of the alliteration. I wanted 3 Ds in there. There's probably other words that would have fit better. But aren't all roofers drunks, dropouts, or dopes, and other common misconceptions?
Yep.
Some stereotypes, there's truth behind it. Some of them are just baseless. And I think some are just somewhere in between. So I just want to have a conversation. I'm sure you've had these questions asked to you in your years in the industry. But let's start with this. Aren't all roofers either drunks, dropouts, or convicts? What say you?
The short answer is no. Not to say that there's not some of that riddled through the industry. Was it
That's
more prevalent at one time?
Every industry.
Yeah, of course.
As well.
Yeah. Was it more common at one point versus the other? Maybe. I don't know. When I was in school, it was right around the time where the big push was you've got to go to college. You want to get a good career. You want to make, decent money. You got to go to college. People would say things along the lines of like, do you want to lay brick in the hot summer in the cold? That was it was like looking down upon people who worked with their hands for a living. But in reality, man, I always loved working with my hands. So there are a lot of people that go into this industry specifically because they don't feel like they don't have a lot of other options. A lot of detention centers and correctional facilities do have trade programs, so you can, become a convict and learn a trade and come out and enter the industry. So that is part of it. But no, I mean, I think that it's always going to be there. It's in every industry. But yeah, I think that that stereotype has started to fade away more and more and more over the last few years, simply because I think people are starting to realize that blue collar businesses are actual careers. Any sort of trade businesses is an actual career. If you look at Mike Rowe from the shows like Dirty Jobs, and he was an announcer and a sportscaster and stuff for a short period of time. Yeah, from Maryland. He has his Mike Rowe Works program. He preaches very hard about the availability of blue collar jobs and how it's a viable option for kids that don't necessarily want to go into college. It is a way to make a great living. It's not like you go into it and you're getting paid minimum wage. Is it hot in the summer? Yes. Is it cold in the winter? Absolutely. Is it a clean job? Some days. Is it a dirty job? Most days. But if you take a sense of pride in being able to build something with your hands and starting a project from beginning and seeing it, kind of be built in front of your eyes, I mean, it's a great feeling. A lot of us ride around with our kids in the car and we do the stereotypical thing where you see that project over there? I did that. I built that. See that roof? I put that roof on. Do families get tired of that? Yeah. When we're 900 miles away from home and we're driving and they're like, Dad, pay attention to the road. And I'd be like, oh, I've never seen that shingle before. Look at that shingle, guys. So, so I think that stuff is riddled into every single industry. And I just think that, I don't know. It's there. It's going away. There's always been a black cloud over construction in general. Roofing has always been kind of a really, really black cloud, but I don't know. Hopefully it's going away.
Yeah, you and I grew up in basically the same era, and much like you in high school, is like either you're going to college or what are you doing with your life?
Right.
And my kid's daughter just started high school this year. She has her first high school dance this Friday, so please pray for me. It's so weird.
Poor guy.
And I feel like do you feel like that's changing a bit? Because I feel like there's being more and more emphasis on magnet schools and more emphasis on the trades. You find these colleges or programs, whatever you want to call them, whether it be for auto mechanics or HVAC or really anything you want, cosmetology. Do you feel like that trend is kind of shifting?
I mean, I feel like there's definitely a lot more emphasis put on working in the trades, working with your hands. Not only just for guys, there's been a big push over the last 10 years or so about women in the trades. Again, it used to be always one of those things where it was kind of like people had the expectation that you couldn't make a living from working in the trades. And it's just not the case. It doesn't really matter what version of the trades. You can be an electrician, you can be an HVAC, plumbing, you can be a carpenter, trim carpenter, you can be a roofer or siding guy, you can build decks for a living, kitchens. It really doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. There is good money to be made in the trades, especially with the last handful of years. There's been a ginormous shift in the labor market. The old guys, and when I say old guys, I mean 55 plus. I don't mean that they're old. I just simply mean that they're the older guys that have been doing it for a very long time. Mm-hmm. They're retiring. They're getting out of the industry, and there are more people retiring than there are people entering the labor pool. And there's a huge labor shortage. So in the process of that happening, we're dealing with increased wages for the people that are entering the industry. You've got a lot of older guys that are now becoming like instructors and teachers at some of these specialty schools, these vocational schools, or you have a way to basically enter the industry kind of pre-trained on a lot of stuff. So I think that it's a lot bigger of a conversation now than it ever has been. So
yeah, and I don't want our audience to think that we're saying college is bad. I would say about half of our employees went to college.
Yeah.
I have a brother-in-law who has a degree in, I believe it was contracting management, and he now works in the field too. Like it takes everybody. And you were talking about trends of the kind of the more seasoned vets in the industry aging out or retiring.
Yeah.
On the flip side of that, the workforce is flooded with people that have bachelor's and master's degrees and can't find jobs. And so what do you do?
Right.
And I loved my college experience, but I'm 39 and I'm still paying my student loans.
Right.
Like I have 2 kids, one who's in 9th grade, and I'm still paying student loans.
Right.
What do you wish? Now you went to school
I did
after high
some
school.
college. Yep. I did some college. It just wasn't for me. I'm a hands-on kind of guy. I'm a solo learner. I don't like being taught. I love to learn, but hate being taught. At the time, my patience was very, very different than what it is right now. So I didn't really have the ability to sit in a classroom, as well as like for things like math, you have to do accounting classes and all that stuff. All of that stuff, numbers just always have made sense to me. Just sitting in a class where I always had to write out my work, like it just didn't work for me. So I struggled in class. I was always a smart, somewhat, again, not to toot my own horn, but I was always an intelligent child. School wasn't my thing. I didn't enjoy it. But when I got to work with my hands and I got to, use Pythagorean theorem and work out the decimal points and fractions and all that stuff in the field, I loved it. I excelled at it. It was fairly easy for me. I've always been a very visual guy where I'm able to kind of look at a space and kind of visually figure out all the pieces that kind of need to go in place in order for that to get built. I can see the before and after in my head. Those things have always made me kind of excel in this industry. I know a lot of people that are like that. I know people that went to school for something not even remotely close to what they're currently doing, and they're way happier at what they're doing now than if they had entered that career that they originally got their degree in. So yeah.
If you could go back to your high school counselor and have an honest conversation, is there anything you wish that he or she would have said or done differently?
So I think the same conversation that my parents had with me is kind of the same conversation that my guidance counselor had with me. And it was, you're not applying yourself. If you were to apply yourself, you could get into a good school and you could get a good job and you could have a great career and you could make decent money. For my parents didn't really give me a whole lot of options. It was, you need to go to college. There was never really any rhyme or reason behind that. But I think there should have been a larger conversation about what I wanted to do. I think there's this big push that you're supposed to go directly from high school and directly into college. Does it make it easier to go, right from one to the other? Probably. But if you have no idea what you want to do, then why are we pushing these kids to go into college and to pick a major that, half of them change it the second or third year? And it's just, I think that's pointless.
It's like burning money.
Yeah. Yeah. So like I have a buddy of mine who his son changed his major his senior year in college. Mm-hmm. Like it's just, I just think there should be a larger conversation in regards to some people are just not meant for college, or if somebody has no idea what they want to do, why is there not more assistance in finding them a job that might be in a line with their personality and current skill set? Again, speaking specifically about the trades, because that's where my experience is, you can come directly out of high school and make, above minimum wage right out the gate. And if you apply yourself, you can make great money within a year, 2 years. And long term, I mean, I've got several people here that make more money than many of people that I'm aware of that are adults and have careers and have college debt that they're still paying off. So I just think that it's a much more viable career option than I think most people give it credit for.
So what would you say to a high school junior or senior who is feeling a lot of the same things that you were feeling at that time in your life, where like math made sense in a practical sense, but like the theory of it, it was like, what is the point of this? Right. And let's say they have this goal. They want to enter a trade. Let's, for the sake of this conversation, say they want to enter what we do and exterior contracting.
Mm-hmm.
What would you recommend to them to get their foot in the door? What are the opportunities out there?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think you know, go to a reputable construction company, tell them you're interested in potentially entering the trades. Ask them if you can shadow them for a day, whether you want to shadow one of the project managers, whether you want to actually shadow in the field. If you just want to sit in their office for a day and kind of see what the day-to-day is like. Again, volunteer to just shadow somebody. Don't ask for pay. Don't ask for a job right away. Just tag along. And if somebody's willing to do that, they're probably willing to be fairly honest with you while you're around them all day. And if you say, you know, I'm not really interested in college so much, and these are kind of the things that I'm, you know, somewhat good at, and see if it's a good fit. You know, I think that if more people were allowed to shadow somebody that's currently doing what they ultimately want to do, then I think people would change their minds prior to getting into that field of work. So ask a reputable company if you could shadow somebody for the day. Ask them for a candid conversation in regards to the industry and, you know, the changes they've seen over the last, say, 10 to 20 years. I mean, in reality, almost every industry has changed over the last 4 years. I mean, everything pre-COVID is almost completely different now that we've all gone through that. So, I think just having an honest conversation and offering your time and just asking for nothing more than like the truth in return. So.
Okay. So you mentioned, you know, math is obviously a skill that is required in our industry. What are some of the other skills or knowledge required to make a contractor successful?
Time management is always a good one. You know, you can work out the clock pretty easily, focusing on the wrong things. So I think having time management and realizing scheduling and realizing like I have 8 hours to get this done. Let's make sure we kind of stay on task. That's always a good one. Any sort of people skills. If you're good with talking to people, especially if you're good with conflict management. So you're working on something that is usually somebody's largest investment. You're working on something that typically is very much tied to the most vulnerable memories of somebody's like inner self. So there's a lot of emotions tied up in someone's home. So if there's any hiccups that happen in someone's home, a bush gets destroyed or, you know, a mark gets put on the siding, like those can be extremely emotional things for some clients. And being able to have those skills where you can kind of make people understand, you can be empathetic to somebody and kind of let them know that like, we're going to rectify this whole situation. I understand. I'm sorry that you're upset. Like we understand, we get it. We'll make it right. We always do. You know, and having the patience to understand that it's not you. Like, I think one of the issues we run into a lot is everybody thinks that because somebody is mad and you're the person that they're screaming at, that they're upset with you. And it's very much not that. So I think if you can remove yourself from any situation and allow people to vent and then just make sure that they understand that we're always going to fix whatever the issue is, I think that goes a long way. So.
You have mentioned on prior episodes that, you know, many people that end up in our industry end up in it because, like you, they enjoyed building things, they enjoyed using their hands.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make you a good businessman or woman. So what are some words of advice that you would have to somebody who is good with their hands? They're creative at problem solving, but maybe they don't have the business acumen or the experience needed to keep a business afloat.
I mean, you can be really, really good at what you do and be an absolutely terrible business person. There's a reason why like 90% of contractors go out of business in the first 5 years. It's not an easy business to go in. Cash flow is always an issue because we do so much work on credit accounts, and we finance so many people's jobs because it just sometimes it takes time for their checks to come in, and so cash flow is oftentimes the one big thing that kind of kills most contractors. But I think that if you maybe have the physical side of the skill sets down pat, but you don't necessarily have the business side, go work for somebody and tell them outright, like my long-term goal is to be my own boss. Learn the skill sets that you can learn from somebody that's already in the industry. And there's the possibility that you may at some point realize, like, I'm making great money working for this other person. I get to go home at the end of the day without the burden or stress of cash flow or employees or vehicles and maintenance and, homeowners calling you all hours of the night. You may end up deciding that you don't want to go into business for yourself, or, have a conversation with the guy you currently work for, who's actually looking for what we call an intrapreneur. He's looking for somebody that has an entrepreneur spirit and has the skill sets. Doesn't necessarily make sense for them to own their own business, but they can put them in a different role that kind of makes them an entrepreneur underneath the umbrella of the existing company. Most businesses are always looking for self-starters and people that have that ability. But yeah, if ultimately, you get some skills as far as the business side of it goes, and you want to go out on your own, I think it's great. And the things you are good at and the things you have, some skills, or you've learned some skills to do this, everything else, just hire somebody to do the other stuff. So
related to that last question, what if you are the best business person in the world, but you've never swung a hammer, but you see the potential in the contracting industry? Is there a place for you there? Or what
Yes.
are your words of advice to that person?
So there are plenty of people in this industry that are good business people that realize that there's money in the space, that have very successful businesses. There's people that I know that have like degrees in like finance that have gotten into the home building industry. It actually works out really, really, really well for them, because again, like I said, cash flow is like one of the number one things that most contractors fail at. So if you can control your finances really, really well, then essentially all you have to do is find the people to build the homes or to do the renovations or whatever. But yeah, there's tons of people that get into this industry that don't have the physical skill set. And some of them will tell you that they don't need that skill set. I had a conversation this morning where somebody was talking about a previous boss of theirs, and they said, "Oh, well, you've never physically installed the product that we sell." And he goes, "And I don't need to, and I never will." So me personally, I started doing the installs myself. I pretty much took every potential job that came my way to try and learn everything I could potentially learn about almost every aspect of this industry. I learned really, really well what I'm good at. I learned what I'm not good at. I learned what I liked, and I learned what I didn't like. So I hate painting. I hate painting with a passion. There's not enough money in this industry to have me paint full time. So you don't necessarily need to have the physical skill set in order to be an entrepreneur in the trades. It just makes things a little easier on the front end to try and set a business up when you understand how every aspect of the business operates. So it's really hard for somebody that is a marketing guy like yourself to understand what, like, say, Mike and Kevin go through on a day-to-day basis, or for you to understand what Josh goes through on a day-to-day basis. So having that experience, that hands-on experience, obviously makes things a little easier when you're trying to set your own business up, because you have lived what they lived, and it gives you a better understanding of how to properly set things up so that everybody's happy and not just, lining your pockets.
All right, that is all we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer. Remember, this is a two-parter. Be sure to come back next week for part 2. Before we go, though, would you please help us continue to get the word out about the show? The best way to do that is to rate us on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, or wherever you're listening or watching. Also, if you are watching this on YouTube, please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an upload. Also, what other questions do you have related to exterior home remodeling or maybe the trades in general? Would you send us your questions to info@askproexteriors.com and place "You Ask" in the subject. If you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope this episode has empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. Until next time, happy homeowning.
The You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com. Hey, thanks for watching this video. Would you please help us out by hitting that subscribe button? That would be awesome. Also, if you never want to miss another one of our uploads, please be sure to hit that notification bell. All right, thanks. See ya.